afraid Jews, because their widows were being overlooked in the daily distribution of food. So the 12 gathered all the disciples together and said, "It would not be right for us to neglect the ministry of the Word of God in order to wait on tables. Brothers and sisters, choose 7 men from among you who are known to be full of the Spirit and wisdom. We will turn this responsibility over to them and will give our attention to prayer and the ministry of the Word." This proposal pleased the whole group. They chose Stephen, a man full of faith and of the Holy Spirit. Also Philip, Prochorus, Nicanor, Timon, Parmenas, and Nicholas from Antioch, a convert to Judaism. They presented these men to the apostles, who prayed and laid their hands on them. So the word of God spread. The number of disciples in Jerusalem increased rapidly, and a large number of priests became obedient to the faith. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Of all time. As you can tell, things are going to be just a little bit different this morning. Before I introduce our program, I want to thank a very special group. The song was about you, for the ones of you who served, give up your time, your talents for in the military. Thank you very much for what you've done. Along with that, I also want to draw your attention to the back of the bulletin. It lists a series of people who are active in the military right now. We need to remember those as well as their families. We know that they worry about them and they pray about them, and we want to reassure the family members that we as a church are also praying for them and hope that God takes care of them and brings them back to their loved ones. Today we're going to run through an event that occurred here back in August. To put it bluntly, we got Harvey'd. When that set in, things went in all kinds of different directions. And this church decided that we were going to do something for our first responders. And we stepped forward and done that. Before y'all leave today, I would like for you to take a minute to look at the board over here. There's all the different thank you letters that we got in from the different people that we had here. I had thought about putting all of those up on screen, but if I do that, it couldn't be read. So instead, we put them here on the board. Please take time to stop and look at them and pay attention. I left the envelopes there on purpose so that you could see where these come from. Some of them are local, some of them are as far away as Indiana, and all over the place. Some of the places that we that come here to help us, that we house them, and people who sent us stuff so that we could do the job that we've done. What I'm going to do is, now that we've got the stage set, I'm going to turn everything over to Roxanne and Chris. We're going to go through what this church done and what God helped us do. The number of different God moments that occurred in that week and a half is really astounding. I would like to be able to say, look what we done, but I can't do that. Just look what God used us to do. Y'all wrong?
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry. I hate standing with my back. We're going to take a step back in time, because today we get to recognize all of our heroes, not just the ones that are our military veterans, but the one that stood up with us and made it through Harvey's with us. So would all of you in this church, you wonderful heroes who were active in the Harvey incident and volunteered your time here, doing so many of these wonderful tasks, would you please stand up and be recognized? Let's give them a warm round of applause. because we're about to let you know all the miraculous things that changed for all of us when we became that church. During the night when Harvey was at its worst, we realized really fast that logistics were going to fail, that the first responders were losing their equipment in the water, that we were an island, that Helos would soon be delivering people stranded in the water and stranded at the Civic Center and the bowling alleys and the 7-Elevens and delivering them to fields in Port Neches very quickly to try to save lives. You're going to see some wonderful pictures behind me as we scroll through this. And these words are their stories. So we knew that every logistic plan that we worked in Ike and in Rita were going to fail that night because we couldn't move population out of the way. We were here. We did not get to evacuate. We knew that we were an island. We had been cut off from all supplies. There was no medical equipment. There would soon be no more food left, and there were no medical supplies. Logistics were going to fail. We knew that the local organizations that normally stood up at this time and served would fail during Harvey and would continue to fail during Harvey. So Port Neches, First Methodist Church, stood up. So when the phone call came and we were checking into logistics and seeing what was going on, I made a quick phone call to this church and said, Robert, it's Roxanne. Logistics are going to fail. The first responders don't have what they need to do their business, and we need to move now. And the time I got here, for the few blocks from my house to here, all church staff were here, and we were all dividing up roles and responsibilities to start what at that time we didn't even know we were going to accomplish. And the God moment started rolling in.
Hebrews 4:16. So let us keep on coming boldly to the throne of grace, so that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need.
One of the first programs, ma'am, this is the city of Port Neches. It turns out we do need those meals that you offered. Our logistics are not going to be able to do it. We need all hands in that water. Can you still deliver those meals? Yeah, we can do that. Tell us the different locations you're at, and we'll bring them to you there so that you don't have to stop doing what it is you're doing. Do you need assistance tomorrow? Yes, ma'am, it turns out we do. We have no food. We have no supplies in this church. We have no food. So we've got to get 60 meals out in just a few hours, and we're rushing and waiting in lines at Market Basket. And when we get in, everything we thought we were going to plan to serve, those supplies are gone. So we divide up. You go that way, I go this way, and we all start putting food into the baskets. And we rush back here, and we get into the porta-shell. You know what happens? You walk out. The members are here. They're unloading the cars, and they're getting that kitchen fired up and ready. And by lunchtime, those hungry, wet, and exhausted volunteers have 60 meals in their hands. And we did it. Except now we have to do it again tomorrow, and we have no food.
Luke 11:8-9. I tell you, if friendship is not enough to make him give you bread, your boldness will make him get up and give you whatever you need. So I tell you, ask, and God will give to you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will open for you.
Welcome to Doug Savant's Walmart. They're open now as a supply line for logistics because everything in that store is now needed to help the first responders do their job. They are not open to the public, and we got in. When we walked into Doug Savant's Walmart, there's all these mats and cots, and employees are sleeping on them right by the checkout lines because they're rushing everything in that store out to meet those Helos and those Chinooks that are landing in the water in the parking lot with victims, with survivors, and they are taking care of them. And those employees, they've lost their home. They're getting their sleep on those mats to be able to serve and to help the people that are rolling in. So when we're going through Doug Savant's Walmart, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a Walmart on Highway 69. When we're there, there's no checkout lines. This never happens. Talk about a God moment. And we have what we need, and we're returning to church.
Except logistics are gone. Those responders are sleeping in damp sleeping bags, in hot trucks, in mosquitoes-infested parking lots, on the concrete. Evacuation is taking days, not hours. Civilian volunteer resources have not materialized, and God says, Psalms 138:3, on the day I called, you answered me. You made me bold with strength in my soul. And James 1:22. But be the doers of the words and not hearers alone. First United Methodist, Port Neches, stands up. These rescuers needed a place to stay and food so they can keep going. They have to come in at night from the waters, from Bevel Oaks, from Port Arthur, from Orange, and the Central Incident Command location in the Mid-County area. Beaumont has lost water. The nearest hospital is 90 miles away, and it's getting worse.
So we're organizing in the kitchen, and it starts with my prayer, and it is, God, please. I know we're supposed to be the hands and the feet of Jesus and serve you, but please protect us and let the actions that we are about to do protect those, heal those in the water, and let it be what you need it to be. Lord, please protect us while we do it, because we don't know how. And the God moments start rolling in faster and faster than we can even comprehend.
Isaiah 43:2. When you pass through deep waters, I will be with you. Your troubles will not overwhelm you. Crews make flyers and head for the water lines. But we have no beds, no sheets, no linens. Only one gentleman bravely drives in from Austin, knowing he can't return, with 25 new air mattresses. His mama was a church secretary here. That's a God moment.
And then another call comes in. Is this church taking in first responders? Yes. This is Texas Task Force 1. I need a bed for 125 to 150 men. It'll be Colorado, Puerto Rico, Indiana Special Fields Division, and our Strike Force Texas Task Team, plus Texas Task Force 1. We need to be in separate rooms, and we are glad you're taking in the Cajun Navy. We are grateful for the Cajun Navy, but we cannot sleep in the same space as them, because at night we are doing our strategic meetings, and we need to be separate. We need to be away from general population. Can you handle that? Yes. Yes, sir, we can. And we're going to feed you dinner that night too, except we have no food, we have no beds, we have no linens, and we're going to do it.
It's a God moment when members of all ages sign up to staff supply rooms for linens and designate these rooms in the church as bedrooms. When the man that sign in tables, when they take in supplies to cook breakfast and supper, and even stay up all night to make sure it happens. It's a God moment when the library overflows with bedding and the parlor becomes a huge food pantry. When the Longhorn Steakhouse arrives every night with the best of their foods. It's a God moment when Nature's Brewery shows up with the brisket. When Doug's Walmart sends all desserts and muffins. It's a God moment when we have no idea how to feed breakfast in the morning. And, I lost my spot. There it is.
And it's a God
Yeah.
moment when in the next morning, when we have no idea how we're going to feed them breakfast, and one of our members walks in and says, I have 18 breakfast pizzas on the way. They'll be here right before dawn in the morning. Problem solved. Mm-hmm. It's a God moment when a first responder who is very well known in this area walks in, and she's obviously distressed, and I can see the look in her face, and she's bringing in 2 civilians, which we are not supposed to house. We're only supposed to be first responders. And those 2 civilians are a dad and a son who were on vacation between New Orleans and New Mexico and lost their car in the flood, and all of their identity and everything they own, and all they have are the wet clothes on their back, and she knew she could not bring them into general population leaving from the middle school. And they don't know what to do and where to go and how do I get home, and I live up north, I'm just here on a visit. And we help them on their way to Dallas the next morning to be able to provide social service supports they need to get a temporary ID to get on an airplane and get themselves home where they need to be. We know it's a God moment when we're listening to her, and she's obviously distressed because her 80-something-year-old mother, and she's a first responder, is in her kitchen trapped because there's burglar bars on the window, and 3 different teams had to leave that woman behind in the flood water, and she's clinging to the top of her refrigerator, struggling. And another woman from Beaumont grabs a boat rescues her because she rams that boat into her front door enough times to dislodge the furniture, jumps in the water over her head, puts a life jacket on that lady, brings her out successfully, and then Miss Doris says, "Wait, my sisters are on the next street. Can you get them too?" And a photograph comes over, and it's those three ladies sound asleep in the back seat of a car being driven to dry land with their blankets around them, and they're all safe.
It's a God moment when the Texas Task Force 1 says, "We would be grateful for a shower." Approximately 125 showers in a span of 2 hours. And First United Methodist Church, Port Neches makes arrangement to fire up the high school boilers. It's a God moment when we realize we have to wash the sheet sets, and pillowcases on each of the 160 beds daily to ensure minimum contamination. Oh, and we need to wash the freshly made beds on the second floor again after they are infested with ants.
It's a God moment when you're flying through the church and you rush into the pantry, and, which is now, as you can see by the pictures, our Bell Bennett room, our parlor is now our food logistics supplies because it's next to the kitchen. And you rush by and you happen to look down on the floor and you think, who the heck put motor oil in the parlor? Why is it there? And there's a cardboard thing of motor oil, but you don't have time to stop. And as you run into the kitchen and out into the hallway, there's a responder there that says, ma'am, I know this is an odd request, but I really need to ask, and I desperately need motor oil. I got to get back on the water. I got to get back into rescue, and my boat is out, and everything I had is gone. And what weight do you need? And it's this. Yeah, it's right in there. Come on and get it. That's a God moment.
It's a God moment when someone says the local Coast Guard guys have been on the water line for 4 days, and they all they want is a toothbrush, and a member walks in and delivers them.
It's a God moment when you answer the phone and you hear, "Are you that church?" And you think, "What?" And you answer, "Yes, we're that church. What do you need?" "I need MREs to drop to homeless veterans that have a permanent encampment on the water line in Bevel Oaks. Their PTSD is so bad that they are a permanent homeless encampment, and now they're in the trees because it's 9 feet of water underneath them. They can't hunt, they can't fish, they need no food. Do you have MREs?" And y'all saw that beautiful kitchen trailer that Indiana brought down. We don't need MREs. They've got a fully mobile kitchen they can cook. And I go out there and say, "Guys, I need MREs fast." And they deliver cases of them into my hand that minutes later are being dropped into, on their way to being dropped into that water line to those homeless veterans. It is a God moment when you get a call from a social worker who says, "I have a hospice patient, and it's an infant, and I need cases of water for that mother to bathe that infant in its last hours, and I need diapers." And they're standing right there. Who brings baby diapers to a food pantry? And we had them. They're on their way down, and they're being delivered. It's a God moment when you realize, whoa, y'all, we forgot communion bread this Sunday, and what do we do now? And one of our members walks in with 2 loaves of homemade bread, and we get to use those for communion.
Romans 12:13. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality.
It's a God moment when you realize that the people standing next to you and have been standing next to you for days and nights on end are your youngest members and your oldest members, and they're going to be with you there through the duration. That what we thought was impossible has now been accomplished. When you know in your heart and your mind and your soul that no matter what walks into that door next, you will face it together, you will be bold, you will show mercy, you will find grace, and it's all because we were all standing in the same place together to respond and to do that. We are that church.
Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
As we move through and we talk about these incidences, these are a very small piece of what happened in those days and those nights. When we did our security task force and we accomplished and opened kitchens and we became social services and we became incident respond and everything else, I hope you take a minute and you look at those. But I want to share one because we had one special gentleman that was with us through the crisis that came from the Cajun Navy. And during that time, we also learned how to do wound care, which was a challenge in and of itself when you don't have medical supplies. And we provided that in addition to, he sent a text at the end. that I want to share with you. And it says, "Hi, Miss Roxanne. Just letting you know that I arrived home early this morning. Please tell everyone in your church thank y'all for their hospitality and the acceptance that was shown to me and the hundreds of other rescuers that were blessed to have a shower and a place to sleep. It was very peaceful saying my prayers in your church, this room, yesterday morning. That helped me recenter my faith. Thanks, David Woolidge, Marrero, Louisiana. Y'all will always have a friend with me and my family. God bless you." And then the realization comes, how are we going to put that children's building back together? How are we going to clean that and have it ready for Mother's Day out? Where are we going to store all of these air mattresses? Where are we going to do all of the things that are the next step to put this church back into order as we move out into recovery and we start to recover the homes of our families and our friends? And you look around and you see you and know we're going to be fine. And we will find those solutions just as we found all of the ones that you provided to us all along the way. As we continue with this mission, we want you to know that next spring, First United Methodist Church will be delivering the protocol to Texas Task Force 1, because what we did during that event has never been done before. It is not part of their incident command response. It is what we became the night of Harvey. And they have asked our church to respond and to deliver that protocol so that they can reach out and get mutual aid agreements with other churches along the way, because it started here and it quickly spread to First Baptist and a few other churches for the first responders, but they were in shock. They had never seen anything like what happened in Southeast Texas and how independent we were. So based on what we all did here during Harvey, that will continue to grow and to provide coverage for those first responders so they can continue their rescue missions. We know that our church is different. We know that this is the new normal, that we are that church. And we have now a mission fund because we were able to pay the light bill when it came in, which was very little, but people gave money as well as their time and their talents. They gave their treasure. And I know Lynn Kaufman has some new ideas for some of the mission work that come in. I hope you will join him to put together the wheelchair ramp next Saturday at 2 o'clock. And hopefully you'll join us on January 22nd. Please mark your calendars, because it's time to go back to the Longhorn Steakhouse, who showed up every night and gave us the best that they had, and it was wonderful. And join us from 5 to 8 at the Longhorn Steakhouse in Beaumont to go have dinner. That way we can go back to them and say thank them for all that they did to help us during that time. Thankfully, I think we've accomplished everything. There's one other thing I'd like to add we didn't say in first service, so please spread the word. We don't need to lose these memories and these recollections. We need to capture this. We need to remember who we are. We need to celebrate who we are. So if you have a God moment during Harvey and the way that this church responded, we're going to put together a scrapbook. So please write it down, and let's capture all these memories, and let's leave it as part of the history of who we became that night in Harvey and how we continued from there. Thank you.